My name is Darra Thomas, and I will be presenting the social cognitive theory and its impact on education in low-income communities. So what is the achievement gap? The achievement gap is the persistent disparity in academic achievement between disadvantaged minority students and their white counterparts. Wealthier school communities will receive better resources, such as a higher quality of education, better technology and school amenities, better facilities such as athletics, science labs, and basic needs, and a higher number of specific extracurricular activities and recreational programs. Lower income students are statistically at the lowest academic achievement level and also have the lowest socioeconomic development. A survey conducted by Columbia teachers in college in 1935 reported these school findings and also concluded that unkempt bathrooms, isolated classrooms, formal teachings, and lower staff personnel will all have a negative effect on school environment. Social cognitive theory was developed by Albert Bandura and states that a child will learn through navigating social experiences and environmental cues. A child will develop behaviors based on socioeconomic circumstances, as well as observing others in social interaction, as well as through media influences. And now, in the digital age, social media plays a key part in one's development. For example, a medium such as TikTok is a key element in young children's learning acquisition. A lot of times you will see that young children will mimic behaviors, language, and physical attributions that they see off TikTok and will now use these in everyday circumstances and everyday situations. So why is social cognitive theory necessary? Firstly, it will better shape one's behavioral learning. Secondly, it will allow the educational system to understand the ways in which low-income children develop knowledge in all contexts. Thirdly, it will allow teachers to develop lesson plans that cater to one's socioeconomic development. And fourth, it will normalize positive behaviors and healthy learning mechanisms, such as note-taking, studying, flashcards, and methods that will otherwise benefit one's educational learning. So what is a bad school environment? For generations, urban communities and low-income city districts have been plagued by horrible schooling conditions. Environmental concerns include damaged or non-functional school buildings, such as not having air conditioning or proper heating systems, dirty or broken restrooms, limited sanitation, and overall lower quality facilities. Lesson plans that are taught in an isolated and strict manner due to low staff personnel. So a lot of times these schools do not have enough staff to offer things such as class periods, free periods, or home periods. So oftentimes these children are confined to one or two classrooms for 6 to 8 hours a day. Negative reinforcement, such as metal detectors, frequent ISS suspensions, and even police presence are used within these schools, which not only have negative effects on the students' outlook of coming to school, but it also makes these students feel unsafe and have distrust with with their teachers and the administrators. Not only is there a lack of programs, but they do not even encourage these programs in these types of communities. Programs such as rowing, golf, lacrosse, or even STEM programs and art classes are actively taken out of these schools or not even introduced. And all of these conditions will lead a child to a predisposition to a negative environment, which will result in emotional and behavioral difficulties. Children often imitate behaviors that are presented to them through influence. There are three styles of learning in which a child will acquire knowledge. The first is a live model, which could be an in-person demonstration or hands-on involvement. So that could be working out a math problem on a board in front of a class or presenting a PowerPoint, just like I'm doing right now. The second will be a symbolic model, which is a representation of behavior and knowledge acquisition that is learned through film, literature, or media. And that could be an example of a child reading a book and maybe creating a system of names in his head in which he attributes these names to certain characters in order to better remember them. And the last would be a verbal model, which are behavioral descriptions and auditory explanations, which could be seen as something like a tutorial or a podcast or auditory instructions. So, applying SCT theory to observational learning, the environment in which one learns will dictate their mental state and can either encourage or hinder them from learning a skill. If a child is learning in their school but is constantly disrupted by risk factors such as peer-to-peer violence, classroom interruptions, or trauma outside of their school, they will be led to a greater risk of cognitive stagnation or even regression. Research on the impact of school environments has shown to be a great determining factor for academic success. Overall school climate and underlying factors such as parents' perception of their child's school adjustment, teacher-student relationship, and motivation and self-efficacy will have a key impact on a child's academic and social development within school. Research on regression analysis finds that there is a positive increase in positive climates and academic success, meaning that the better that one's school environment is, the better that they will do in school. And that has a direct impact or a direct effect on one's motivation and self-efficacy. Intrinsic motivations, such as feelings of pride, satisfaction, and accomplishment, are important for students to understand that self-determination is truly the main factor in learning. Things such as perceived rewards and perceived risks will also have a direct impact on one's motivation as well. So, what should we do? How should we apply these things to low-income schools in order to receive better results? Firstly, more resources need to be delegated in these types of communities. Education systems should be allowed bigger budgets that will allow for these schools to get better resources, such as increased programs, better technology, better overall facilities for these students in order to have a positive schooling environment. Not only do more resources need to be around, but positive reinforcement needs to be instilled in these schools as well as in their lesson plans. So instead of threatening detention for missing a homework assignment, teachers should encourage doing homework by offering an award, such as maybe a pizza day or watching a movie on Friday. For example, hey, if everybody does their homework, if everybody turns in their homework on time, we will watch a movie on Friday. That will give a child an incentive and will furthermore work on their own motivation and self-determination. Healthy behavioral practices such as self-affirmations and critical thinking that encourages learning and task performance should be instilled as well within these students and these teachers' lesson plans. And allowing teachers to perform and form their own independent situational and leadership-based decisions, such as creating their own lesson plans based on what they see in their children, maybe teaching children how to apply to college or teaching children about what trade schools are out there instead of focusing on acing the SATs or getting high test scores would be more beneficial and would directly impact the educational achievement of low-income students. And communal hierarchical structures instead of police-based supervision is necessary. For example, this picture that I'm showing on the right corner is Dads on Duty, and they are a Louisiana-based organization, and they were formed when one of their Louisiana schools were at a greater risk of school violence. They couldn't experience one day in which anybody got into a fight. So the dads of these students of this school developed this organization in which they now patrol the school. But instead of doing this in a police-based way or a police-based method, they come in as fathers and as influential beings, and they use methods of positive reinforcement or even counseling methods in order to cultivate a better relationship with kids and to build up trust within these students. And they've actually found that they have reduced the level of school violence and have a better overall school climate because of this act. So, coming all in full circle, the achievement gap starts at an early age, but learning begins even earlier. The solutions that need to be presented in low-income communities have to align directly with social cognitive theory. Programs that promote model behavior in parents to better fit child's needs should be enacted. Income support programs, daycare and childcare initiatives, and educational resources should also be more prevalent in order to take the stress off of parental figures and allow for a better cultivation of parent and student relationships, as well as student and school relationships. And understanding that educational level is a main factor when understanding civic, educational, and vocational disparities will be a huge step in the direction of closing the achievement gap. All of these methods altogether will allow for these schools to understand the needs of these children and will allow for them to develop a program in which these children will now finally be able to understand learning in a way that they can economically grasp. So these are my references. These are the research articles that I took information from. And thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it.